For those of you who don't know me, I'll introduce myself. My name is Bill Carpenter. I am here to speak to you this evening as a parent of a child who became addicted to OxyContin and heroin while attending Brockton High School. Last Wednesday evening, an informational forum called Generation RX, Children in the Medicine Cabinet, was held at the Massasoit Conference Center. It was co-sponsored by the Plymouth County District Attorney, Tim Cruz, along with the head of the New England region for the Drug Enforcement Administration, Dr. June Stansberry, who attended and brought at least a dozen of her staff with her. A gentleman named Steve Klein, who's from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America, flew all the way up from Maryland to attend the forum because he thought it was that important. From local government, the mayor's office was represented. 2 senior members of the mayor's staff were there. The chief of detectives of the Brockton Police Department was there. Senator and Representative Creedon spent the entire evening there as members of the audience and even stayed afterwards to speak with individuals. I guess I came here tonight because I don't recognize a single face in this room that I saw at that forum. Not one member of the school committee, not the superintendent, not one member of the superintendent's staff. And I guess that probably speaks volumes about where the school administration is right now in terms of their approach to drug abuse among students here in the city of Brockton. If you had been at the forum, you might have learned that twice as many young people in the city are dying from drug overdoses as from gun violence. But yet I don't see a whole lot being done. The catalyst to the forum last week was a 4-part series run in the Enterprise last spring in March called Wasted Youth, What's Killing Our Children. And in this 4-part series, they detailed to a great extent the OxyContin and heroin epidemic that's taking place in the city, and they profiled a number of young people whose lives have either been lost or ruined due to OxyContin and heroin addiction. Those young people are former Brockton High School students. Subsequent to that series in the spring, many area communities responded. They responded by holding, in essence, drug forums. Raynham, Bridgewater, East Bridgewater, Abington, Coyle Cassidy, to name the ones I know of, held forums. Yet here in Brockton, we've got the largest high school in the area, over 4,000 students, and no forum. It's been over 6 months since that series ran. At the high school, and I know that Dr. Zach is here, so if I'm wrong, Dr. Zach, please correct me. I believe we have about 22 guidance and adjustment counselors. I think that represents about $1 million in payroll. And we do not have one substance abuse counselor, one counselor whose specific training and background and experience is in dealing with teenage drug addiction. I gotta believe we can find one position out of $1 million worth of payroll for a substance abuse counselor for the high school. My feeling as a parent of one of these kids and having been through the process is that the prevailing philosophy of the Brockton Public Schools is discard and deny. Discard this student and continue to deny there's a problem. I've seen it over and over and over. I'm sure the administration will tell you that this is primarily a family responsibility. It's a family problem. It's the parents' responsibility. And they're right. It's easy to blame the parents. My child became addicted to drugs while attending Brockton High School, and you can say it happened on my watch, because it did. But it happened on your watch too. And my child was introduced to OxyContin at Brockton High School, playing sports at Brockton High School, doing all the things I thought that would keep him out of drugs. That's where he found it. Mr. Nimbakow, with all due respect, when you retreat to your home in Western Massachusetts every weekend, my kids are struggling to survive on the streets of this city. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. They're faced with the constant threat of gangs and guns and drugs. And it's time for the school department, under the school committee's guidance, to reevaluate their approach to this problem and implement a comprehensive drug policy that's in the 21st century. You know, perhaps we could develop a drug policy in our school system that emphasizes care and counseling and compassion instead of discard and deny. What can the schools do? I know the question for you as school committee members will be, well, what do you expect us to do? We're not the parents. We can't hold the hands of 10,000 school children. Well, how about a drug forum at Brockton High School? The district attorney, the Learn to Cope group, all of the groups involved have been readily available and held them at almost every single surrounding community. How about a substance abuse counselor for the high school and the B.B. Russell School? There may be a few kids' lives that you can save. There's someone there for them to talk to. How about training for teachers to recognize the early signs of drug use so we can have effective early intervention and save some children before they're lost? And how about support for the siblings of drug users, because they're suffering too, and they're suffering in silence, and no one's paying any attention to them, and those are your students too. A couple of months ago, the Enterprise produced a tabloid reprint of the Wasted Youth series. This is it here. I brought a supply that I'll leave with you so you can all go home with one. They've distributed 10,000 copies of this over the last couple of months. They've had requests from individuals, organizations, schools, all throughout the Metro South area. Unfortunately, not one single request from a Brockton school administrator. They're free of charge, unlimited supply. I approached the Enterprise recently and asked them, why can't we get this out to the families of the Brockton school children? And their response is that they could. And the response that I got in the letter I will leave for you from the Enterprise is that I asked, my original inquiry to the Enterprise was, what would it cost to produce enough of these for the schools to send one home to every single school family here in the city? The response was a little startling. The cost to print them is about $5,000. But the letter goes on to say that they're willing to cover the expense if you'll just distribute them. I don't know of any good reason why you would not want to get this information into the hands of every parent in the city. I wish to God someone had given me this 4 years ago. Maybe it wouldn't have happened on my watch. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And I know Dr. Sackwitz is here, and we made eye contact during the discussion. I wonder, Sue, could you just enlighten us some of the things that are happening at Brockton High School for students?
In fact, to the series that Bill mentioned, the Wasted Youth series, a young lady came forward and had an idea wanted a support group, and it was initiated last year. And it's run for students. It has to have parents' permission, obviously, which we get. And it's run by one of our adjustment counselors ran it last year, but now he's running it with another one of our adjustment counselors. And it's also in connection with South Bay. So, and it meets regularly. It's a support group, and it's voluntary on the kids' part. Kids can choose to join themselves. It sometimes comes from a referral that a teacher might make, a counselor might make, or even a parent. It doesn't matter. It usually comes through the guidance counselor.